Hi, this is Oliver Cowmeadow, principal of the International Macrobiotic School, with my usual Tuesday evening session, which I've started during this coronavirus epidemic to give some help and support to anybody who wants it, using a more natural health approach to a variety of different health problems, as well as how to look after ourselves during this time of the COVID-19 virus going around. I did a post, when was it, yesterday I think, about the effects of sugar on the immune system. So I've been doing a bit more research, and I thought I'd talk really about the effects of sugar on the body. The thing which is most, the sugar, refined sugar, concentrated forms of sugar have a lot of very negative effects on the body. The one which really stands out at the moment with the coronavirus infection spreading is that it seems that eating good doses of refined sugar almost certainly inhibits the immune system. Strangely, there hasn't been a ton of research on this, which is just unbelievable because it's pretty important to know. But there were some studies done in the 1970s at the Loma Linda University in California, USA. And what they did was to feed people different kinds of sugar: glucose, sucrose, which is the common refined sugar, also fructose, which is the sugar found in fruit and fruit juices, smoothies, etc., and also honey. And they also tried starch as well, a complex carbohydrate. So they gave this to people to eat, and then they took some blood out at intervals and mixed that blood with a bacteria, Staphylococcus bacteria. And what they noticed was that a certain kind of white blood cell, the white blood cells are the cells which are really defending the body, which are a big part of the immune system. And there's a particular kind called neutrophils, and these are sometimes they're called the first responders. They're the first cells which get to an injury or some kind of infection by bacteria or fungi or viruses or any other foreign particles getting in. And they're phagocytes. What they do is, if there's a foreign particle, they come and surround it and then gobble it up. They produce enzymes to digest whatever it is and break it down. So these are the first responders to infection. They make up at least 60% of the white blood cells, so a lot of them. And what they found was that after eating these various sources of sugar, that the rate of phagocytosis of these neutrophils digesting the Staphylococcus bacteria really slowed down. And this was, as I say, with glucose, sucrose, fructose, honey, and also orange juice. Interestingly enough, done in America, where they consume a lot of orange juice, but I think the same applies to other fruit juices as well. And what they found is, after people had these doses of sugar, that the neutrophils were less effective, and that this effect went on for up to 5 hours. That's a long time. So that means that if one had a sugary breakfast, something like Kellogg's Frosty cornflakes, which I can't quite remember now, I think it's about 40% sugar, and followed up by some sugary jam on some toast, that's going to reduce the effect of the immune system for the next 5 hours, probably till lunchtime. If at lunchtime one finishes lunch with some kind of sweetened dessert with sucrose in, then again the immune system is depleted. Hi Rob, hi Melissa, hi Pema, good to have you all here. Then mid-afternoon, cup of tea, cup of coffee, piece of cake, reduces the immune system again. Then maybe at supper time, some biscuits before going to bed. And basically one's immune system is being impaired through the whole of the day. Maybe it recovers a bit during the night when we're asleep. So if there's what I was saying in my post was, if there's one thing that everybody can do to increase their resistance to the coronavirus and to viruses in general, is to stop eating refined sugar. Really such a simple thing to do. Practically, I know emotionally it may be more difficult. If you want some more help, then on the school website, under information, that you can there's a Go Sugar Free kind of document, pamphlet, advice that you can download, which will give you some recipes for making some other sweet foods, using vegetables to make sweet foods, making desserts using just the natural sweetness in fruits and other foods, so that you can get off sugar. People's diet really has a big effect on their susceptibility to picking up viruses and other infections. I found this for myself. I got into macrobiotics unbelievably 40 years ago, age of 24. And before I got into macrobiotics, I remember every couple of years flu, a week in bed, feeling very miserable, a couple more weeks feeling not very good before I got back to normal. So that was normal for me to get the flu every few years. In the last 40 years, I've not had flu once. Occasionally I'll get it if there's a really bad, nasty kind of cold thing going around. Occasionally I'll get something like that, but generally I don't pick up on colds. And I know a lot of other people that have got into macrobiotics have found the same. I'm not saying this is perfect, that macrobiotics will just, you'll never get infections, you'll never get ill. That's not true. I'm not portraying it as a totally magical thing, but it does seem like it's pretty effective at reducing our rate of infection. And I think one thing is, from eating more whole foods, including whole grains, vegetables, etc., which are higher in starch or complex carbohydrates rather than refined sugars, really strengthens our immune system. Interesting that in the Loma Linda University research, they found that when they gave people starch, it had no detrimental effect on the immune system at all. So that means eating whole grains, vegetables, root vegetables, etc., is not going to diminish your immune system. In fact, if anything, they're going to help it, because they're rich in the B vitamins and minerals and so on that really support the immune system. Thank you for those of you who've joined so far. If you've got any questions, the idea of tonight, these evenings, is that if you've got questions, anything related to health, you can ask, and I'll do my best to answer. Any symptoms you have, or any illnesses, then please ask. While I'm waiting for some possible questions to come through, hi Cohen, that's great to have you here. I'm going to go on talking a bit more about sugar. I think one of the disasters of the last 50 years has been the widespread use of sugar on health. Western medicine is really showing how it really contributes to both obesity and also type 2 diabetes, which is rapidly becoming more common in modern Western countries, including the UK, steadily increasing. And one may think, surely Western medicine can control this, and it's pretty good. But people with diabetes do suffer from some serious side effects, because sugar damages, high blood sugar levels damages fine blood vessels in the body. So Virginia, thanks for your question. I've been talking a little bit about immunity and food, so I'll come back to that. So I'm just talking about the effect of sugar on immunity and also other things. So high blood sugar levels damages fine blood vessels, and so diabetes is the most common cause of blindness. Also can cause poor circulation and gangrene in the feet and lower legs, and amputation. Also kidney failure, also heart problems. So and this is all created by high blood sugar levels. It's also been found that high blood sugar contributes to insulin resistance. So this contributes to diabetes. So even when the pancreas is producing enough insulin to reduce the blood sugar by getting it out of the blood and into the cells, if one has got high sugar levels, then this affects the cells so that the insulin doesn't have so much effect. So in effect, it makes diabetes worse. What else does sugar do? There's two things. It also has been shown recently to increase gut permeability. So I've talked quite a lot about this in other classes. In our guts, we have, especially in the small intestine, we have one layer of cells separating. Imagine what comes out of your bottom. That is inside your body, inside the gut. And somehow your body has to protect itself from all the bacteria and fungi and viruses and everything in that mixture. And it has just one layer of cells to do that. It can't have like a thick skin because it's got to absorb food. So it's just got one line of cells so that it can absorb the nutrients into the bloodstream and into the lymphatic system. So obviously it's really important that one layer of cells makes a really strong boundary, because it's got to keep bacteria, viruses, fungi, foreign particles, etc. out. And if it becomes weakened, then things will get in. Bacteria, viruses, etc. will get into the body. Also, larger proteins from peanuts and milk and other foods get into the body, and then the body sets up an immune response, an allergic reaction to those foods, because it thinks it's being attacked and invaded. So sugar, it's funny, in macrobiotics for decades we've said that sugar is really the prime cause of allergies, food allergies, and poor defense in the intestines. Now actually Western medicine is beginning to, there's some papers coming out saying that this is true. So it's the third thing that sugar does. Recently they've also been finding that eating sugar on a regular basis increases inflammation in the body. When people are regularly ingesting sugar, they can do blood tests, and they find that inflammatory markers are raised, and inflammation is associated with a lot of different illnesses, with coronary heart disease, with rheumatoid arthritis, and many different diseases. Sugar's not good for your teeth. So I hope I've convinced you that it would be really good to give up eating refined sugar. As I was saying before, we do like a sweet taste, and rather than going cold turkey, learn how to make yourself some healthy sweet foods. And as I said before, go onto our website under information. There's a nice document on how to give up eating sugar with recipes and some really helpful advice in there. So I'm going to start looking at your questions now. Yep, if you're please do your own research on sugar. There's just so much stuff you can find, reliable information. Don't go so much for the kind of chatty kind of sites. Go some of the more medical sites, which has a lot of research on PubMed. I can't think of the other one right now, which I use quite a lot. Or patient.co.uk in the UK. Also, the National Health Service now has some very good dietary advice. It's recommending that adults eat no more than 6 level teaspoonfuls of sugar in a day. Children, smaller children, half that amount. While 1 bowl of Kellogg's Frosty cornflakes will blow that for children. That'll be more than the whole day's advised allowance. But hey, instead of going for refined breakfast cereals, why not make your own breakfast? Porridge, wholemeal toast, etc. Make some healthier things. So Virginia, you're asking about immunity and food. So, as I was saying, quite a number of things affect our immunity. Food does in a big way. There's certain foods which weaken our immune system, such as sugar. Other foods which kind of empty foods, which rob the body of vitamins and minerals, which the immune system really needs a lot of. Caffeine, refined foods, refined flours, alcohol. And things foods which help the immune system are mineral-rich foods. So that's using whole foods, whole grains, whole beans, whole vegetables. Also using making soups and seasoning them with either fermented foods like miso, tamari, shoyu, also herb salt, etc. Sea vegetables really have a lot of minerals in. Maybe 10 to 20 times more minerals than land vegetables. So very good to add small amounts of sea vegetables to your diet. And again, I think on the information on our website, there's a whole section on sea vegetables, different kinds, and how to use them. So that's just a little bit briefly. We brought out a range of online courses during this period when people can't travel here. So next Monday I'm starting just a 1 hour, a series of 6 1-hour classes in the evenings on how to strengthen your immune system and looking at food and exercise and de-stressing and a number of different ways. And also the following week a more serious, in-depth course on strengthening the immune system using a lot of oriental medicine and some Western science as well. So another question asking about the causing of itchy skin in the evening and night. Usually itchiness is caused by, in macrobiotics we say, eating more yin foods, because more yin foods tend to go to the surface of the body. So it might be eating sugar or sweetened foods. It might be eating spices, foods with more chemicals in. It could also be light, oily foods, or creamy foods. Maybe too much tahini, or foods with a lot of oil or butter in, because oils also are more yin, that they go to the surface of the skin more quickly. So if someone's having problems with that, I'd say for maybe 3 or 4 days or a week, just go on a very simple, in macrobiotic terms, a balanced yin-yang balanced diet, whole grains, cooked vegetables, beans, tofu, some sea vegetables, some soup, which generally are not going to cause problems like that. And then you could start trying to add in things, adding in fruits or grain sweeteners, or other things that you might be eating, and see if you can find out which food is triggering it. Pama, you're asking, is vitamin C a good prevention for coronavirus? there's vitamin C is helps the immune system. But the next question is how do you get your vitamin C? So you might think, well, let's eat lots of fruit because fruit's healthy and will give me lots of vitamin C. However, eating a lot of fruit isn't helpful for the immune system. And one reason for this, well, one reason is it contains a lot of fructose, which I've talked about is not good for the certain parts of the certain kinds of white blood cells. Also, in general, fruit is soft and watery, and if we eat a lot of fruit, then it can make our body tissues also soft and watery, including the mucous membrane in the nose and the throat and the lungs. You might have noticed that if you eat quite a lot of fruit, you might sneeze more, or your nose might start dripping more liquid, because fruit makes the mucus, eating a lot of fruit makes the mucous membrane more soggy, and this makes it more permeable, I believe, so that then viruses, bacteria and things can get into the mucous membrane and infect the body. So a better source of vitamin C will be to eat green vegetables, broccoli, kale, spring greens, green cabbage, etc. They contain a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin C is the one vitamin which is broken down with a reasonable amount of heat in cooking. So important to either just cook these very lightly, just steam them for a couple of minutes, just so that they're soft enough to eat, or if you're a juicing kind of person, you could juice up those greens and to get your vitamin C. So Jennifer, you're asking about dried fruits. Dried fruits, they're nice. Normally they can be part of a healthy diet using raisins, sultanas, dried apricots, dried apples, pears, etc. But you need to be aware that they're much more concentrated in fruit sugar. Like dried apricots, for example, very nice, very sweet. But if you think that they come from an apricot this size, and when they're dried, you can easily eat half a dozen or 10, or cook them in a dessert and eat a lot of them. You wouldn't eat kind of probably half a dozen or 10 whole apricots, but because they're dried, easy to eat a lot of them, and then you're really getting a lot of fruit sugar. So let's use a little bit of dried fruit in desserts and things, or maybe mixed with seeds or nuts as a snack, but let's not really eat tons of fruit sugar. So hi Dawn, hi, not quite, is it Angelis? Angelis, not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Then Carmela, okay, well thanks I'm glad you feel these are wise words, very nice to hear. Then Dawn asking about refined sugar. So you've got a downward thumb. I guess that means you're saying, yeah, not good. Really, one of the biggest mistakes in the last 50 years is the amount of refined sugar that we eat, and how to, just say one more thing about it. One thing, how do we avoid it? Because if you go into a supermarket and you look at the tin fish, a lot of them have sugar in, the sauces, the dressings, just about everything has sugar added to it because people have become habituated to having sugar. So how do we avoid sugar? Best way is you buy whole foods and you make your food from scratch. This is what we've been doing in Macrobiotics. This is what people have been doing around the world for thousands and thousands of years. You buy your grains, you buy your vegetables, your sea vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, etc. And you make food from scratch, and then it's really easy to avoid added sugar. You can make your own desserts, etc. So Jane, nice to have you here. Looking forward to the plant-based cooking course. Yes, two weeks time. 2 weeks time. We're going to have an online cookery series of cooking classes once a week. Sorry, I forgot to turn my aunt's machine volume down. So if you'd like to, if this is a time when you'd like to look at how to change the way you're eating and eat a more healthy, balanced, plant-based diet, then these cooking classes, very easy to study from home. And they'll also, on all the online courses, all the classes are recorded as well, and you'll get sent the recording afterwards, so you can watch them again or watch them whenever you like. So Pema asking about a coffee alternative. Probably the nearest thing are the grain coffees made by roasting grains like barley and beans, and often they have a bit of chicory added to them. Various brands, Yano, Caro, Barley Cup. Also dandelion coffee. All of these have a slightly bitter taste. Personally, I think the best are Yano. Has a really nice flavour, and you can either buy it as a powder, as an instant drink. You can add, if you want a bit of milk with it, you can add a bit of plant milk, or you can sometimes get the coarse ground Yano, and you can percolate it, and it really becomes quite strong. Also, dandelion coffee. You have to buy the pure dandelion, not certain dandelion coffees that have had lactose added to them. And if you like that kind of dark, slightly bitter, strong flavour, then either the kind of brewed Yano or the dandelion coffee is very good. Actually, there's probably various reasons why we crave coffee. It can give a lift because of the caffeine, but I think sometimes we're also craving a bitter taste. Bitter is one of the 5 tastes which the body really needs, and we don't need a lot of bitter taste, but sometimes we crave a bitter taste. So, and I think that sometimes that could be one reason why people want coffee. So the grain coffee or the dandelion coffee could be a good substitute. Then Dawn, you're asking about tofu. How much tofu is too much tofu? I'm not sure what the nutritionist meant by protein inhibitor. Tofu is slightly refined soybeans. It's made a bit like making cheese. You break up the soybeans and cook them, and then you take off the curd, and that turns into tofu. So it's a very easily digested source of protein. It doesn't have a strong flavour. You can buy the smoked variety. And when you're cooking it, you need to cook it with a lot of flavour. So if you're frying it, you can cut it in kind of 1 centimetre slices, fry it on both sides until it's golden, and then add some good strong flavourings, maybe some ginger juice, some balsamic vinegar, some shoyu or tamari soy sauce, things like that to get some good flavour into it. So I've no idea what it means by a protein inhibitor. I've not heard that before. From an oriental point of view, tofu has quite a cooling effect on the body. And if we overdo eating tofu, it can, if people are quite depleted, it could deplete their energy further. Especially don't eat raw tofu. It needs to be well cooked. And I think if one's in good health, one can eat tofu 2, 3, 4 times a week. I've known people that want to eat more healthily and find beans very difficult to digest to start off with, and who've eaten some well-cooked tofu every day, and they've really been fine on it. But on average, one might use tofu a couple of times a week, something like that. So hi Rita, hi Liz, and Mark. your diet is heavily weighted to macrobiotics and you don't eat refined sugar. The question I have is specifically around kidneys, or kidney. So so you're basically asking what helps the kidneys. In macrobiotics and in kind of oriental medicine, there's a whole system of understanding nature and health called the 5 elements or 5 transformations, and which recognizes that there are 5 different energies in all of nature: the fire energy, the earth energy, metal energy, water energy, and tree energy. And these 5 different energies nourish 5 different organ pairs in the body, and it's the water energy that really nourishes the kidney and the bladder. And there's certain foods which are stronger in water energy, and the water energy is the kind of energy that's very deep in nature and in our bodies. And the kidneys are low down in the body, and so the kind of foods which really basically bring, I was going to say nourish the kidneys, but you could say bring more chi or ki into the kidneys, are foods which bring the energy downwards and inwards. So you're eating a macrobiotic diet, so you're eating whole grains, which definitely do this. Out of all the whole grains, buckwheat and buckwheat noodles, in Japanese called soba, do this particularly strongly. Really well cooked beans, especially aduki beans and black turtle beans, especially cooked with sea vegetables, because the kidneys are really strengthened by minerals. So using sea vegetables on a daily basis, using light ones like dulse or wakame in soups, and also when you cook beans, use kelp, or in Japanese kombu. Put a good piece of that in with your aduki beans or your black turtle beans. Add some shoyu, tamari towards the end of cooking, which also adds a lot of minerals. Then soups. One thing which really helps strengthen the kidney energy, and the kidney energy the kidneys in Oriental medicine are holding our deep internal energy. They're like our batteries, our internal batteries and energy reserves. So I think we all want strong batteries. We all want strong energy. So this kind of applies to anyone who wants strong energy. One thing the kidneys really like is hot, salty liquid, i.e. broth soups, like a miso soup or a shoyu broth, or a broth soup seasoned with herb salt or sea salt or any kind of salty food. Really helps to have some sea vegetables in, because that really adds a lot of minerals. Also the kidneys, what can also increase that is adding a little bit of fish or shellfish to the soup. So a fish soup is particularly strengthening for the kidney energy. Also root vegetables, especially burdock, or another vegetable which is very similar, salsify, which they're long and thin, and they're very determined. They go very deep in the ground because they got strong downward energy. Black or dark brown skins and white on the inside. Very nice vegetable. Not so easy to find. So burdock or salsify. You can cut it in slices and fry it. Put it in soups, different dishes. Also helps. And then, so those are some foods which help maintain and strengthen kidney energy. Then be careful not to have too much in the way of spices caffeine, grain sweeteners. So using a little grain sweetener, using some fruits, to make desserts is fine, but not really overdoing grain sweeteners or overdoing the fruit and spices. Not eating nightshades often because they're more yin; they take energy away from the kidneys. So I hope that gives you quite a bit to work on. If you're interested in learning a lot more, the 6 steps to well-being, 6 steps to health course I run. So I've got a cat next to me. That's why my arm's going up and down. Here he is. So I'll just say hello to Oscar, and he's going to go down. The 6 steps to health course I run goes really into a lot of depth in how to help 6 different systems in the body. One of those is the kidneys. So if you want to study more deeply, then that would be a really good course. So hi Suzanne, hi Rita. Dawn, so you're saying you think the nutritionist meant that it affects the body's ability to absorb protein. Again, I haven't heard that before. Generally, it's described as a very easily absorbed protein. It may be that if it's overeaten, then it can make the body a little weaker. So possibly it can weaken the digestive system. But really, if it's well cooked, if you're making, I just talking about broth soups, what you can do is just cut the tofu into little cubes, cook it in the broth soup for 10 minutes. Or what I like doing to make it a bit richer is just to shallow fry it in a little bit of oil on 2 sides, and then add it to the soup. So it's really well cooked, and really I'm sure that's fine, and it's not going to inhibit the absorption of protein. So Siobhan, hi. Evan, hi. Nice to have you here again. Els, Mark. So that's. Good information. Good. It's just it's still it sometimes amazes me how different Oriental medicine and Western medicine is. Western medicine has just been so excellent at understanding how the body works physically and chemically, and can be incredibly helpful at certain times. As with people seriously affected with coronavirus, we see on television, and with ventilation and so on. Fantastic. But it's just amazing how little it understands about health. It understands so much about disease and illness, and tries to intervene to change what's happening in the body when people have become ill. Okay, at times that's very, very useful. But it hasn't studied health very much, and it's just amazing how traditional forms of medicine, like Chinese, Oriental medicine, from which macrobiotics has grown, Ayurvedic medicine, has looked in much, much more depth at how different foods, emotions, weathers, lifestyles, temperatures, etc., affect our health, and all the things that we can do to look after our health and increase our health and keep rebalancing our health. To keep ourselves well. And I really wish that Western medicine would take a bit more notice of some of this traditional wisdom, because it could really speed up its understanding of how people can be healthy. And at a situation like we have at the moment with the coronavirus, I don't want to trivialize it in any way. Some people are badly affected, and some people die, and that's tragic. And unfortunately, people towards the end of their life often have weaker immune systems and are more prone to picking up infections, including this one. Although I've also been seeing in the news that some people in their 90s have had the coronavirus and recovered. So it's not universal that people who are much older necessarily get it seriously. The one thing we can do is to strengthen our health and thereby strengthen our immune system. And You know, I feel for Boris Johnson, who's in intensive care now. I was interested that Prince Charles, who had the coronavirus, he had it fairly mildly, and he's back to working again. So why is it that some people get it more seriously and some people get it more mildly? One of the words that's been used quite a lot on the television and the government announcements is that it's indiscriminate. It just affects, you don't know who it's going to affect. It definitely isn't indiscriminate. You know, it will affect people whose either whose immune system is compromised, people on chemotherapy, for example, people with diabetes have weakened immunity. But as I've been talking about, people who are eating high sugar diets, you know, also will be more prone. And this, I think, is why, you know, in the press they've been saying, you know, mostly people affected have other illnesses, which they have, so they have a diminished immunity. But then it's a shock that some people that don't have any other illnesses, which in Western medicine are then considered to be well, have got coronavirus seriously. Just because someone has no symptoms or no illness, that doesn't mean that they're well. You know, some people, we can suddenly have a heart attack or develop asthma or arthritis, and that's been building up for a long time. It doesn't just happen like that. And Western medicine so far hasn't been good at understanding people's level of health. Oriental medicine uses a lot of different methods of oriental diagnosis to understand our health better. It's not perfect, it's not, you know, it's not 100%, but it can give us a pretty good idea of the health of different organs in the body. And we can use this on a daily basis to keep improving our health. Oh yeah, my lungs are getting a bit weak. Okay, I need to eat some foods, do some exercises, do some things to help my lungs. My kidney energy is getting weak. Okay, then I need to do some things to help my kidneys. This information really is like gold dust, because this is how we can really keep ourselves well and largely avoid serious illness. And it's such a shame that this information isn't more widely known. So I did about a 15-minute video earlier, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, about sugar. Really good to send that out to your friends and just let them know this is such a simple thing that people can do to help themselves right now, is by stopping eating refined sugar. Okay, Mark, it'd be great to see you on a course. Thank you. Jennifer asking about the best way to use Irish moss. So Irish moss is a seaweed that really thickens, when you cook it in water, it really thickens whatever you're cooking it in. So you could put a bit in soup, and it has a very distinctive flavour, so don't add too much, but you can put a bit in soup, and it will add minerals, and it will also thicken the soup a little bit. Another way you could use it, I don't necessarily recommend this. In the old days, before we could get refined agar flakes, you can buy seaweed flakes called agar, which are great at making jellies. So you can make things like fruit jellies or savoury jellies, and it's tasteless. But in the old days, we used to use Irish moss to make fruit jellies with. Very good, made a very nice jelly consistency, but you just had to be careful not to have too much Irish moss, otherwise the nice flavour of the fruit was a bit tainted by seaweed flavour. Yeah, so I would say use in soups. How to decrease, Rita, you're asking about how to decrease inflammation in the body, and would breathing help? Okay, that's an interesting question. How to decrease inflammation in the body? Well, the first thing would be to not eat a lot of the foods which seem to increase inflammation in the body. A lot of refined foods, sugary foods, hot spices can create some inflammation in the intestines. Alcohol. I need to do some more research. I'm sure there's some more foods which do, which I can't remember right now. At the same time, the kind of really safe foods to eat are the foods which we emphasize in macrobiotics, the whole plant foods, the whole grains, vegetables, beans, local fruits, sea vegetables, seeds, etc., which are pretty safe. Breathing, I'm sure would help, because breathing helps a lot of different health problems in the body. So whether it's brisk walking and breathing deeply, doing some yogic breathing exercises, abdominal breathing, specific breathing exercises, diaphragmatic breathing, all of those things are very good practices to do to flush out carbon dioxide, bring more oxygen into the body, to oxygenate the whole body, bring more qi in the body, because another source of energy, we don't just get energy from our food, we also get energy from the air when we're breathing deeply. You may feel you spend 2 minutes breathing deeply, and in 2 minutes you feel more energy. Where's that energy come from? It's come from the air. This is a source of qi for us. So those are a few things, Rita. I'm sorry, I want to do some research and feel that there's more information to be had there. So hi Penny, hi Annie, good to have you here. Evan, so you're asking about autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's, which affects the thyroid, and multiple sclerosis, and do they affected by COVID-19 like other diseases? I mean, is it the same like diabetes, etc.? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. In the last, maybe 10 years, Western medicine has found that a lot of illnesses in the body, like Hashimoto's disease, which is a problem with the thyroid gland, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, the immune system is attacking certain body cells, so there's an immune response to, but the trouble is they're attacking the body's own thyroid cells or synovial cells in the synovial membranes. So they've got very good at identifying this, but they tend to stop there. They don't understand why that is happening. Some people see it. I think there's two kind of main reasons why it might be happening. One is that the immune system has become kind of overreactive, and in general people's immune systems are not in good order. This is why we have so many people with allergies. A few months ago I went with some friends into a vegetarian restaurant, and I couldn't believe after every dish there was a whole line of 10 to 20 symbols, to say exactly what was in that food so that people could check it out for allergies. 40 years ago, food allergies were rare. They've probably always been around, but they were rare. And yet today allergies are so common because with the decline in general health in modern society, also there's been a big decline in the health of the immune system, and the ability of the lungs to keep out airborne organisms, and the ability of the gut to keep out things that we eat and drink. So I was talking earlier on about how sugar has been shown to increase the permeability of the gut. So sugar and other refined foods and a lack of fibre in food all are weakening the gut, so things get into the gut and then the body sets up an immune response. So a lot of our immune systems are not in a healthy state. Another way of looking at autoimmune diseases, well, before I go into that, I'll just say this: the immune system does a lot of different things. We know it attacks viruses and bacteria and foreign substances. Another part of the immune system also clears up dead cells or unhealthy cells, including cancer cells, inside the body. So it has a cleaning up the inside effect. So where there's damage, for example, we've injured ourselves, then certain white blood cells will go there, which gobble up, they're called phagocytes. They gobble up the dead cells and digest them to get rid of them. So it's this part of the immune system that is attacking the body's own cells. So I think it's very likely that another reason for autoimmune diseases is that the body cells have become unnatural. And why do they become unnatural? Because of eating things like sugar, and I think also dairy foods play a big part. Because a lot of people can't fully digest dairy foods, particularly the proteins and the sugars in the dairy food, and then they get into the body, then they get into the body cells, also possibly the fats as well. And then instead of having human cells, we have these altered cells, which the autoimmune system then recognizes as not being normal cells and attacks them. I haven't found a lot of scientific evidence for this. I found various people teaching this within alternative complementary medicine, and it really makes a lot of sense to me. And from seeing a lot of clients, I feel that is one of the causes. For example, with rheumatoid arthritis, where there's inflammation around the joints, very often in the fingers. Okay, so it's an autoimmune disease. So the immune system is attacking certain body cells in those joints. But when I've guided people to give up in macrobiotics, especially the strong yin foods, sugar, spices, nightshade vegetables, strong sweeteners, caffeine, etc., then the pain and the inflammation goes down. So that hasn't, well, maybe it helped the immune system a bit, but it doesn't seem to me that it's directly affected the autoimmune response. It's had a direct effect on the tissues, and then the body doesn't need to, no longer needs to be attacking itself. So I think we have to be careful with the diagnosis of autoimmune diseases. Sometimes it can be a complete red herring. Really what we need to do is to look at how to change the quality of our body cells. And as I remember, decades ago, Michio Kushi talking, why eat a plant-based diet, an unrefined plant-based diet? Why not eat, for example, a lot of animal foods? So one of his arguments was, if we eat a lot of meat and dairy food, that gets into the body, and then our body cells become more, and the body energy becomes more like that of the animals that we've eaten. If we eat a lot of sugar or processed foods, and that sugar's came from plants originally and then made in factories, we take on more of that very artificial kind of energy. And so if we eat whole plant foods, then our body cells and our body energy can become truly human. This is one of Michio's main arguments. And I think it's really true. I'm not saying that people that eat meat and sugar aren't human, of course they are. But food subtly changes our bodies and our emotions and our thinking, over long periods of time, or it can do. And is a tool that we can use to change not only our body but also our consciousness. I really think that's true, that if we eat mostly whole plant foods, our body can become really human cells. If we eat a lot of animal foods and a lot of artificial foods, our body cells change, and then the immune system starts thinking these are not human cells. And while we're talking about immunity, I just want to give you one other idea. Oriental medicine and other forms of medicine are looking at how the body functions, not only physically but also in terms of qi. Everything works from qi. Different kinds of qi are making the muscles contract, helping the voice, helping the tears, the liquids in the body, helping movement, helping qi does everything. So another aspect of the immune system is qi, and in Chinese medicine they call this wei qi, defensive qi, and this is produced especially by the lungs. So if we get our lungs strong and healthy, then we can strengthen our wei qi, which travels under the skin and through the body. Which is going to help protect us from attack from outside, from microorganisms, etc. Also, I think that, so what I see, for example, is that if people have very weak lung qi and they get a cold or a flu, it's more difficult for them to throw that infection off, for them to push it out energetically, because an infection, like a cancer, an infection not only is it happening physically, it's also happening energetically. It has a certain force and energy. It wants to live, and it's decided it wants to live in our body. So how does our body get rid of it? Okay, on a chemical and cellular level, and also on a qi level. We need a good amount of qi to push it out of the body. And this is why, unfortunately, towards the end of life, a lot of people, not necessarily everybody, but their immune system often becomes weaker, because there's less qi in the body. So if you can strengthen, oriental medicine, if someone has an infection, will attempt to strengthen the lung qi, to strengthen this defensive qi, so the body can then push this infection out. So I think this quite likely also happens internally in the body, that if we've eaten if we've eaten, say, a lot of dairy food, and those dairy fats are in the body, there's a different vibration, there's a different energy there, and our immune system quite possibly responds differently to those cells. Or if those fats come into the bloodstream, then that's going to create a different response. So for me, this is another reason for eating a plant-based diet. And while I'm talking about that, I'm just going to put a plug in for, in a week and a half's time, we're going to have a series of online cooking classes once a week on a I think it's on a Tuesday. 4 of them will be how to cook a simple plant-based meal in an hour. And then there'll be one on sauces and dressings and snacks, and there'll be one on making some healthy desserts. So if you'd like to learn more about how to eat a healthy, balanced, plant-based diet, then check that out on our website, Plant-Based Cooking Course. Okay, thanks for your comments, Annie and Evan. So are there any more questions? We've been going about an hour. Do you have any more questions this evening? If not, then I'll end in a minute. So I'll be back here next Tuesday, 8 o'clock again. I think the week after I'm going to have to swap it and make it a little bit later to 8:15, because I'm going to run another course from 7 till 8 on a Tuesday evening. But please, if you enjoy learning online, please check out our online courses. I'll put a link to those when this live session goes up on the Facebook, or you can go to our website and look under short courses, and you'll see a number towards the bottom, a number of online courses listed there. So thank you very much for coming along, and I really enjoy answering your questions, and I hope it's useful. And please tell other people about these Tuesday evening sessions. I'm offering them because it feels like at this time there's a lot of people fearful and worried and wanting to know what they can do to help themselves. And really, macrobiotics and oriental medicine and other things I've been studying, are all orientated to how we can help ourselves. And this is really like gold dust. This is such useful, important information to learn for ourselves and also to spread to other people. So please tell other people there's this opportunity. Okay, thank you very much. I think no more questions have come. Just let me check. No one. So, Angela saying thank you, Rita saying hello, Suzanne saying thank you. So thank you all. Let's end this session here, and maybe see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.